Kill Complacency, a podcast that inspires growth and intentionality and helps you overcome your greatest obstacles.
Real estate was trash. It had low value. Nobody wanted it.
What's our ratio right now, Justin?
Great question. And so, as you know, we moved through the cycles in 2007. In 2007, at that peak, it was around 400 ounces of gold. And at the bottom in 2012 of that cycle, it fell in half to 200 ounces. At the peak in 2007, homes were around $250,000, $260,000. And at the absolute bottom in 2012, it was only around $215,000 in the median home price. So we didn't really see a meaningful price shift, but the value dropped in half. And at the last peak around 2022, 2023, we saw values peak back up to around 270 ounces of gold. And now it is completely collapsed again. And
is it like 150?
Well, let's do the math.
I think it's like 150. I don't really follow gold, but didn't it just hit 3,000?
Nice try. Gold today, as we're sitting here on this podcast talking, I'm looking it up right now for us. As we are speaking right now, gold is $4,300 an ounce.
It's $4,300.
And the median home price
is $430.
The median home price is $415,000 right now.
Yeah, we'll just say $430, and it's 100
ounces.
Yeah.
So it's actually $415. So it's right now it's trading around 92, 93 ounces of gold to buy a median home.
That's crazy.
It is the cheapest it's been in over 100 years. So the answer is everybody listening to this should stop the podcast right now and go buy a house.
I've ran similar data, Justin, but completely different.
Okay.
And I did it. I took research all the way back to 1940 and did it every 10 years. And roughly every 20 years in that, the real estate will triple in value.
Yeah.
Rents will double. Then I took that to 2020 and I said, hey, what's the average annual increase? At 6.07%. And when you project it forward, that 430 becomes, I think it's like 590 by 2030 and like 980,000 by 2040 and just shy of 2 million by 2050 because it's a 6% return.
So let's just look at if we, I use a similar metric. And I think by the time we hit the next peak of the market, I think that there are two things that we can look at. Is there some level of potential speculative bubble in gold slightly right now? Maybe there could be a case for that. So let's assume it settles back down to like $4,000 an ounce and doesn't change, which by the way, is not going to happen. As more money comes into circulation competing for the same amount of fixed goods, the price is going to go up. But let's assume it stays at $4,000 an ounce. And let's assume real estate values return not back to the 350 ounces norm. Let's assume they just go back to the last peak like they did where they're around, let's make the math easy, 250 ounces of gold. What is 250 ounces of gold times 4,000? The next market peak that we hit, which these cycles run in somewhere between 12 and 18 year cycles, the last peak was around 2022. The next peak is coming somewhere between 2036 and 2040. We will comfortably be over $1 million for a median home in America.
That's the same. That's a 6.0 cents. It's the same math.
Just using the slightly different measuring.
And it's interesting. This is what I tell people, you can lock that in today with OPM. You can pay for it twice at 6 or 7 or 8%, whatever. But it's still going to be cheaper in 20 years or 30 years when it's paid for. And you can use other people's money to do it, on both sides. But I can't buy gold with someone else's money.
No, you can't. And also gold is just a hedge against inflation. So it's not going to have the same impact. It's gold. The ounce of gold is, again, we're measuring it against a commodity that fluctuates in value, but an ounce of gold, there are two different examples that I've been told by my mentors and over the past. An ounce of gold buys the same amount of hamburgers it does today as it did 50 years ago. I think that when we start getting into measuring it against commodities, certainly there's influences and moves that impact the cost of those commodities. So it's tough to measure it. And that's what's happening with housing right now. Housing has very low value interest rates are in a really incredible space right now. They're actually where it makes for a much safer, more stable, healthy market for us to be in this 5-6% interest rate range rather than when they're at the bottom and values are soaring and pricing is soaring. I think that it's a much healthier interest rate climate, but coming off of 15 years of 3% interest rates, it feels very expensive right now. But the reality is real estate has never been this cheap in our lifetimes. We're at this like once in a lifetime opportunity to buy real estate. Now that I'm going to caution everybody, just like Don tried to caution me when I was getting started in this game, that doesn't mean go run out and buy 50 of them. Go buy one. Make sure that one works perfectly. Buy
Manage it.
one asset, make it work flawlessly, and then go buy your next one.
Well,
and for some,
literally, you can buy one medium house right now. And in 15 years, based on our math, you'll be a millionaire.
Yes.
Just from that one.
And the market will do all the lifting.
Yeah.
And, you know, I'm not advocating necessarily for somebody just getting started to go buy that median home either. I mean, it might be that, you know, you might want to go buy something that needs a little bit of work like I did. You're probably not going to find a $27,000 house anymore, but the equivalent of that today where you can go put some sweat equity into it and learn something about the business and know that you're buying something that even if everything goes horribly, catastrophically wrong, you're still in a space where you can exit that asset without pain. And if you just hold it for a handful of years, you will create more wealth for you and your family than any other asset class that exists at this moment, short of what I would consider straight up gambling in the stock market.
Sure.
I went back and got a master's degree in finance very specifically so I could learn alternative asset classes. I will tell you, after investing a couple $100,000 in that education and going through that couple of year process and coursework, and it was an incredible education. But my biggest takeaway from all of it is I'm a real estate guy and I don't need to fool around with those alternative asset classes after I understand truly how they work. There is so much more control for the small investor like you and me to be able to control our future and do it with so few moving parts. You know, if you think about it, Marty, most of us are really probably after the same dream. And that dream is we want freedom.
Yeah.
And freedom is not 800 apartments. Freedom is a handful of houses that over time are paid for. And the rent that comes off of those exceeds what I could earn in a paycheck. If you think about what it would take to replace your paycheck, even at a decent high wage paying job, it's only a handful of houses. So if you want to get wild and crazy and get two small handfuls and then have that income so that you are free to go do all the other things that you want to do in life, not so that you could brag about who owns more houses than the next guy.
Yeah. That's good.
Yeah.
Put that out there on social media. Go play it. Because when you play it, Justin, what do? You go buy the 2-1.
That's it.
Buy as many 2-1s as you can, and you trade up. You buy a 3-2, and then you do a big deal card, and you start buying businesses. But you always start with the 2-1s. It's because it's what you can afford. It's what you can manage.
Yeah, exactly.
And those often, in that game at least, they often have the best payout per down payment price.
Yeah.
Your return on money. So
I think the real trick is making sure that they just don't over leverage, particularly now, getting all excited about, oh, real estate's so cheap. They're going to believe what you tell them, Marty, and they're going to run out and just make sure that you buy just one and make sure it works. You really don't need to have 100 of them.
Yep. Yeah, that's good.
Yeah.
Hey, a couple questions. I always ask people this. What are you doing right now, Justin, as far as your life? What are you doing right now that something your future self is going to thank you for?
I have this conversation regularly with my son. He works actively in the business with me these days, not necessarily in the real estate investment side, but we have built a software company in the real estate space. And we talk about what that business looks like and what the core objectives are. And we were just having this conversation last night, in fact. And as an entrepreneur, having no purpose is it's a death sentence. It's horrible, right? So endlessly having a purpose is sort of a need for it's an anchor, right? And so even if certainly there's the things, what am I looking to accomplish? And there's the freedom and there's things like that. But I also like having a purpose. And that's really one of the things that we're having the most fun working on these days is that we have built a leasing platform that our clients use, which is basically anybody. It doesn't matter whether you own one home or 1,000 of them. We have a leasing platform. It's rentsmart.com. That's my business. And in that leasing platform, we handle all of the listings, the marketing, the showing coordination. If people want to use a self-showing or self-access showing tool, that's in there. If they want to show in person, it's in there. And then we run the applications and vet to the client's criteria and deliver a profile on a tenant that has already been fully vetted to validate income,
Everything.
employment, all the things. And then the client makes the decision. Do they want to approve or deny the applicant? On the denial, we run the adverse action letters and keep everybody in compliance. For a new landlord, it's a perfect tool because I'm scared about maybe I don't put the right tenant in there. How do I know? How do I know what I'm looking for? And the most beautiful part about it is the software's free. There is no cost to it. The revenues are generated exclusively from the application fees. And what I'm looking at there is solving a couple of problems, what my future self will be most proud of. The two problems I'm solving is one, helping the smaller landlord with a tool that is free to them, that gives them that confidence and keeps them in compliance and no fair housing violations. But the second thing that I think we're helping with is on the tenant side of things. We're running into this problem right now where applicants are applying for homes, and in many cases, they are spending half a month or a full month's rent in application fees trying to get qualified or move into their next house. And I think we're going to start seeing more and more regulation come into play over the coming 10, 15 years in this business, where landlords get their hands tied a little bit more and more about what types, especially as we're moving into landlord or renter nation, where more and more people are going to be lifelong renters. And the problem that we're looking to solve here, and one that I'm most proud of, is creating this sort of tenant matching service. As our database grows and grows and grows, and today we're representing somewhere around 10,000 units under management, or not under management, but inside the portfolio. And again, some of our clients have one house and others have 600. And that portfolio, as we build that database of tenants, being able to match tenants to homes so that as that database grows and grows and grows, we have a scenario where an applicant can come in and create one profile, create their application. We know what these 5 or 10 or 1,500 listings in your market, what the criteria are, is because the client has put it in there. And now we can say, all right, tenant, here's the 5 homes you match to. Go look at those 5 homes. Instead of applying for 20 homes that you aren't going to qualify for, here's the homes that you automatically match for. And that also provides a fast turn for our clients, because when they're putting the property out there, we are already aligning the test. Think Uber. You've got an Uber driver and a rider, and having ratings and matching system to line that up. So we're pretty excited.
How long has RentSmart been around?
We started this build about 18 months ago, and we took it to market about 9 months ago. So we are still young, but the technology didn't exist for us to even do this 5 years ago. We use some pretty heavy AI and automation tools that we have built custom in-house that allow us to do things, whether it's on the showing coordination side and the digital technologies, to be able to have lock boxes that give unique one-time access codes, and also biometric scanning verification so we know who's going in the homes, those sorts of things. But then on the back end, when we would vet income statement, for example, or rather a pay stub, you and I, Marty, would look at it and not know whether that pay stub is been photoshopped or doctored. With the AI tools and the automation tools that we have built, we can vet and validate that information and throw up red flags when something doesn't align. We can use these tools to rapidly assess somebody, and tools that just didn't exist even 2-3 years ago. And so as we started that build, I guess it's been about 20 months ago, we went to market in March this past year. And like I said, in the last 9 months, we're running about 10,000 units now. So we're looking forward to that scale.
Did you read an old book called Landlording on Autopilot by Mike Butler?
Mike Butler and I used to speak on conferences together. We would sit on panels and hang out together. So yeah, I've known Mike for years and years. Yeah.
For a little bit when I started, he was the gospel to me.
Okay.
And so I used his application. Yeah. But as you were talking, I was thinking about it, because he had ways to catch people in his application process. But I was thinking how much different that would probably look from your RentSmart, because he had so many questions like, have you had bed bugs and stuff? So that's cool that Mike. he really educated me through his books, and I would do this Tuesday. I was at Tuesday meetings. I don't remember. I did those Tuesday.
On,
It was like a
yeah,
Zoom call every day, every Tuesday, I think, and he would answer anyone's questions. And
it's probably been 15 or more years since I've seen that guy. And so I hope he's doing good. I haven't talked to him in an incredibly long time. But yeah, that was back in the day when it was before Bigger Pockets. It was before that kind of stuff. And it was all the travel and roadshow gurus that would be running around the country, the Robin Thompsons and the Dave Lindalls, all those guys before Fortune Builders came out and kind of dominated that market. And the Alan Cowgill and all those guys and Mike Butler, he and I, we there were a number of opportunities where we sat on panels together and shared what we knew. I was on the apartment side.
He's redneck, huh?
Yeah. Kentucky guy. Yeah.
All right. Justin, if you could go back and give your 20-year-old self advice, what would you tell it?
First of all, I don't know that 20-year-old Justin would listen to 52-year-old Justin. But I think the best advice I'd give myself is, man, just keep going. It's not even so much about watch out for this, watch out for that, because we learn nothing from our successes. If I tried to stop myself from any of my failures along the way, I wouldn't have learned anything. And so it's not really about the failures. We learn everything from that. It's really about what you do with it. So the advice would just more be shaking some pom-poms and encouraging my 20-year-old self to don't view failure as something that should knock you down and not get back up from, but get up and keep going and don't ever stop. Just keep after it forever. Endlessly be educating yourself, endlessly be working to move forward, take that next step, no matter how painful, how hard it is, keep going.
What's the top book for you or quote?
Funny Money, of course. But I would say it sort of depends on what somebody is looking for, right? But obviously Rich Dad, Poor Dad, if you haven't read that, would be a key. But then the other part, I think one that still sits on my top shelf is definitely the E-Myth. If you haven't read the E-Myth, by
good.
Michael Gerber.
Yep.
About just building systems inside your business that you're trying to take the guesswork out of what you're doing and build routine operations that are repeatable over and over and over. That's a business, as opposed to just you being a self-employed guy that's just doing it, as Michael would say. Yep.
And then my last question for you, Justin. If this was your last recording, what do you want the world to know? What's the one message?
Real estate's on sale, guys. This is the opportunity of a lifetime. Go make things happen, like right now. Do not delay. Go buy your next deal. Like this week, go after it. Yeah, make it happen. Now's the time.
That's good.
Yeah.
How do people find your book? I mean, I found it on Amazon. Is that the best place?
Yeah, Amazon. If you just go to Amazon and look up Funny Money, Justin Anderson, it'll come up. I hope you get a lot of value out of that. It's very easy to read. I think, I don't know how far you are into reading it, but it's very specifically written so that it's digestible and easy to read. And you laugh. I imagine you would laugh a little bit while you're reading.
Yeah, it's good. I could relate to it because you start off the introduction about, I was going to ask you that earlier, like how much of a handicap was it for you to have that construction background?
Well, the handicap was terrible because I was convinced that nobody else, I'll just go do it myself instead of hiring people to do the work. And, that's that opening story that's in that book of, it was the second apartment complex I ever bought, and it was the first week we owned it. And I was down in unit E4. And I mean, man, it was in a downstairs of a 3-story building. And we had a Section 8 move in the following morning, and I had to get it done. And my staff had gone home. And I was there working on it at like 11:30 at night by myself. And I had this genius idea. The property was still new enough. I could not find the water shutoff valve for that building. The toilet valve was frozen and I needed to replace the guts so they'd stop running and we could pass inspection. And I thought, man, I could just hot swap that valve real quick. I'll just cut it and I'll slip on a new compression valve super fast. A few gallons of water leak out. There's going to be no problem with this. I'd be like a NASCAR pit crew, just in and out. And that is absolutely not how that happened. I cut that valve off, and buddy, the pressure in that building blew that water out so hard it knocked me over backwards, and I could not stop it, and it flooded that whole unit. I'm talking about thousands of gallons of water. Needless to say, we did not have that move in the next day. The defeat set in hard that day.
Why?
Yeah, the whole book is full of like real stories. Every single story in that book is real. Some of them hurt worse than others.
That's good though.
Yeah.
Well, it's been a pleasure, Justin.
Yeah. Likewise.
Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you for having me.
I just wanted to thank you guys for listening to the end. In closing, I just wanted to add that if this message resonates with you, if it aligns with your values and something in it today triggered something, then you can also look me up on Facebook, LinkedIn, Instagram, YouTube. We are really trying to help people live more intentional lives to kill the complacency with which they have subscribed to. I know there's many ways which I get sucked in all the time. So if this is beneficial, follow me there.